Hello and welcome to episode 30 of Seddon and Laceys Comic Stash, and we're going to a galaxy far, far away, where the light and the dark battle for supreme power and ultimate justice.
Much like this podcast, really. Oh,
I am.
we'll let you decide who's light and who's dark out of service. Shit. And who would win? I can give you a clue. It would be Chris. It would be Chris.
I like how you feel that I'm going to win.
Oh yeah,
Dirty
I'm a
tactics
lover.
and-
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
And I just love mush bits, so of course I love like a scrub. Yeah.
Although, as much as I'm a lover, not a fighter, I can be quite a sneaky bastard. So, I guess I could sneak something in. But yeah, for the betters out there, stick your money on Chris.
So yes, we are covering Star Wars. We're doing 3 collective issues. Yes, we've read that much that quickly. So it is.
And for anyone who hadn't seen the last episode, it was based off of it. It's a series that I like, and I've been meaning to get back to since we got Marvel Unlimited. But also, it's one that you did for Reading Corner last week, wasn't it? And
Yes.
I said, "Hold your horses, whoa, Nelly." This is an episode because it was coming across that you quite liked it. So yes, we thought, well, we won't just do the one. We thought we would hit 3 trade equivalents of it. So lots and lots of reading for the week.
Yes, which has meant, I know mine has run quite dry, but I will imagine you busy little boy that you are, have an abundance still in your reading corner.
Actually, though, Chris, you say that. There's a lot of time gone to Star Wars, I'll be honest, but I have been reading, and oh God, I'm loving reading. But funny enough, my reading corner feels a little bit of a cheat because it's something I've already done in a reading corner. But I went back to the start of Immortal Hulk again, and this time I'm definitely going to carry on reading through because it is brilliant. Yeah, I did at the weekend in between reading issues of Star Wars or Vader. I did pop back to that. It's great. I think it's right up your alley. I think it's something that you should probably put relatively high on your list when you kind of go into Unlimited. It's Hulk, which, is a selling point. He's a big character. People like the Hulk. This is a Hulk at a certain point in time, not that long ago. And in the Marvel universe, there had been a storyline where Bruce Banner had been killed. So Brucey Boy and Hulk disappeared for a little while. But this is kind of him coming back to the main universe. And one of the big story premises is that you potentially can kill Bruce, but you can't kill the Hulk. But when the Hulk comes back, Bruce comes back with him. But this leans, I would say, even in this first 5 issues, quite heavily into the psychological side of the Hulk. And you can tell that this is going to dip very heavily into horror tropes. So it's I think it's fair to say that it's got somewhat of a feel of the Hulk TV show as well, because he is kind of going a little bit more town to town. There's a reporter that's following him or trying to follow him because the world thinks that he's dead. So you kind of get those bits, and you get a little bit of a Monster of the Week vibe early on, where he'll go to a town and there will be a gamma monster there or someone affected by gamma. But in all of the issues, when he's fighting or having to have some sort of resolution with the gamma monster of the week, you keep hearing about this thing called the Green Door, and people keep sort of saying it come out the green door, it come out the green door. And let's say even by issue 5, you get a very mysterious idea of what might be behind said green door. And I will leave it there. But yeah, it's brilliant. And I know that it runs ultimately 50 issues, and I know it's very highly regarded. It's one of those series that I hear picks up steam rather than runs out of steam. And it's such a strong start that I can't imagine that this won't be brilliant when read as one job lot, which I'm finally going to do this time.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
See, as I said, I have got my list of shit that I need to get done, and it's only going to get longer when DC comes soon. Oh,
Which which I must admit now, there's something I wanted to confess here. I'm glad you said list, Chris, because I don't know whether we've ever talked about this side of me, but I love a spreadsheet. I've always been a big fan of a spreadsheet, and over my life, I used to have like spreadsheets of like lists and lists of movies and TV shows and music and things like that. And I've previously done with this comics. I now have a comic book reading order spreadsheet, which tells me what I'm going to read next, so that I am never burning myself out. And that partly the problem's going to be with it is that I've added so much to it already that it might take me a while to get back to some of the parts of the stories. But I have done the spreadsheet. But even worse, and this is how geeky my spreadsheet is, I've left gaps for when DC releases so that I can add DC series in.
I thought mine was bad. I just have a list on my phone of like
Now,
these are things in my house that I have physical to read.
my, even worse, Chris, mine has an order. So mine has character that I'm reading that I like from Marvel, indie book by creator I like, DC book, Marvel book by creator I like, rinse and repeat multiple times.
Oh, and now I know why you love Football Manager so much.
Oh God,
You
yeah,
love
yeah,
a spreadsheet.
and TW. Any game that is effectively playing a spreadsheet live is right up my alley. But yeah, I mean, it is nice, as I say, like really invigorated with reading at the moment, and so handy to have something like Marvel Unlimited. I know that leads you mainly down to Marvel, but it does mean like morning, noon, and nights. As long as I've got a device near me, I've got something to read, and probably I can scratch an itch of many different kind of genres and many different. Well, I guess Marvel does lean heavily into the superhero stuff, but you know, if I want a little bit more horror-y, it's there. If I want a bit more comedy, it's there. But yeah, reading. How about you?
So, with lots of my time being taken up reading Star Wars, I managed to get in one other thing today. Um, whilst at work, I got in from the World Comic Book from 2018 a brief history of Tank Girl. Freebie on Comixology. Um, Tank Girl, a character that I've only really know about through the film, which was awful. But you know, it's one of those of I've been told the source material is amazing. The film was a very poor representation of it.
I've heard the same a lot over the years, and I think when it came out, we've said this before. I think it wasn't the right series and the right time for me. I think I was very much in the mindset of superheroes, and it looked a bit quirky. I have read a smidgen of it later on, but it was kind of over someone's shoulder who had the copy, and I read a couple of pages and thought, oh yeah, okay, I'll add that to a list and get back to it, but never did. So I was quite interested to see kind of what this covers off.
So this is because obviously it's being a freebie one for Comic Book Day. It's a very basic arc. So basically, it's Tank Girl's birthday. They do a play of this thing that every year she punches this kid in the face, and then you find out why. It's because he put a knife through a bike wheel. Where on her 5th birthday, so every birthday since then, she punches him in the face.
Justice.
And
Tank Girl style.
There's a quirky little bit where they change the art style, where they look back at one of her birthdays, and she's in a plane, and then you get like 8 panels over 2 pages of the big hits of the Tank Girl character history. So from Inception, when first got the first cover, when they got the film, things like that, and you know, it's 19 pages. It's not, you know, War and Peace. It's a freebie.
Yeah.
But it is a really good introduction into the character, who it is, and a little bit of a sort of a flavour of it, that if I see any for free somewhere, I would probably grab something else to give a proper issue or even a proper trade a run through, just to sort of see a little bit more of it, because it's, as I said, it's a character I never had any real knowledge of, but this was enough to wet my whistle to go, yeah, all right, I'll give it a look.
Well, I guess that's the beauty of these free comic book day sort of freebies, or like just any freebies that they put out there, is it's supposed to be that sort of taster, teaser morsel, isn't it? That
Yeah.
here is a world, here is a universe. I hope you enjoy this small little adventure in it, because there's plenty more out there. Please come and buy it.
Yeah.
And I think if it's intrigued you enough, then yeah, it's really kind of done its job very well, hasn't it?
Yes. So as I said, it's definitely one of those of, I'll have a look, see, because at the moment I'm on a Amazon Prime trial still, so I can still have a look and see what's on there for free and smash through. Because I'm going to try and look for stuff that won't be on Disney or Marvel or DC.
Yeah, I think I know they do a lot of Image stuff on there. I'm not too, because I'm pretty sure Tank Girl was Dark Horse. I don't know about Dark Horse, but yeah, I mean, I think that's similar to me. I think when you dip in and out of these services, it would just be lunacy to spend too much time reading stuff that you already got access to elsewhere, wouldn't it? Like, it's almost grab what I can and leave.
So yeah, so as I said, definitely one that I will be looking at. I did start Street Fighter issue 0 of Street Fighter 2, and when I mean start, I got the first page read and then work got busy.
But I presume the first page is probably Ryu or Ken on there, is it?
It is Ryu.
Yeah, that's what I'd lead off with. As a small aside, nothing kind of technically comic book related, but while we've got it, I do want to give a shout out to the bloody Street Fighter animated movie. Still one of my favourite animated movies of all time. Bloody love it. And if you've never seen it, hunt it down. It is fantastic.
I think I've got it on a PS2 disc, because it came with as part of the 25th anniversary. The film was as part of the game. I should really get my PS2 set up and watch it again at some point.
Yeah, honestly, it's really, really good. Right up there with Transformers, the animated movie, as like the non sort of traditional big release animated movies. My two favourite animated movies of all time. Under that, guys.
It is a banger. So, shall we go off to a galaxy far, far away?
Let's get in that Millennium Falcon. Let's try and hit hyperdrive, and then obviously fail miserably and blame probably C-3PO. But yeah, let's crack on into the world of, and I say the world of Star Wars, but not only the world of Star Wars, but the world of Marvel's Star Wars. And this was after Disney acquired both Marvel and the Star Wars franchise. And just to give a little bit of historical flavour, I hadn't read anything Star Wars for a very long time, but previous to this, Dark Horse Comics had been publishing Star Wars for years, and the only bits I'd read had been the Dark Horse stuff. And I know the Dark Horse run was, for the most part, revered and really, really highly regarded. And I must admit, when I heard that they were not only kind of cancelling everything at Dark Horse, but moving it over to Marvel, I was livid. Even though I wasn't a reader, it just felt like not a nice way to treat a company who I felt had treated this franchise really well. So yeah, my initial thoughts when I heard that Marvel would be producing Star Wars comics, I went, oh no, not for me, the bastards, the Disney bastards. I thought, like I do about so many Disney things. However, I saw the creative team that they were putting on the main book, as I will term it, which was Jason Aaron, which is a writer I was really liking at the time, and John Cassidy on pencils, who's a penciler who I was loving. He'd done Astonishing X-Men. He was right up there, and I just went, oh, do you know what? I'll try one issue and just see. And Yes, I loved it back then from the start. I didn't get massively through it. Again, I think I went for a bit of a bout of either like maybe having a bit of a drop of love in comics, or probably getting distracted by some other series. But yeah, I think I run through initially about sort of the first maybe 20 issues of this, and a few issues of Vader. So yeah, this is me revisiting Star Wars after many years.
So yeah, I think I looked or probably been handed a few of the Star Wars ones, the original things. Not enough to actually remember much about them, but I do remember seeing the old school Star Wars comics.
Yeah,
But I never went anywhere near these ones once they became Marvel, because it was like, oh look, more Disney cash-ins. It'll probably be fucking up the universe more, and
yep,
spreading off more bullshit that doesn't make any sense to anything.
yep.
But
And
I was
I think
pleasantly surprised.
well, and I think that's probably a good place to start, isn't it? Is that I think we both kind of had maybe at different times this idea that um, this would be a cash in. You know, Disney would be cashing in. I think we've been through the years of prequels. We were on the cusp of what was to come, but I think Disney had made it quite clear that the idea was to rinse this franchise to the bone. Although I will say, probably from a movie wise, I probably still had some hopes that they could rescue what they'd done to those movies since the during the prequels, not since it. But I, like you, was really shocked with how good this was. And now, when I say how good, let's keep it in the context of Star Wars. How true it felt to the original trilogy, which for me is the Star Wars that I love. And I guess it's the Star Wars that I've always been crying out for, is anything that feels like it, that they are the characters that I fell in love with in the movies, and that the stories would have fit in that universe. Like, nom, sign me up. And I think, like,
Yeah.
the truth of it is that over the years, for me as a Star Wars fan, there've been a bit of a dearth of that. I read the Timothy Zahn novels, the ones that introduced Thrawn, and they felt like they got it. But I did read a load of other Star Wars novels, and it was a law of diminishing returns. I think there were less quality writers, and it felt like pulpier and pulpier. As I say, I read a bit of Dark Horse comics. That felt like it kind of got it, but it just wasn't kind of in my reading rotation at that point. But mostly I've been kind of relying on movies, and to a degree some of the extended universe, that's the stuff that come out, and it was shit. Like, that's my honest truth, is outside of that original trilogy, like, you really are scrapping
And
for anything that I think has anything good to it.
hey,
So
the Ewok movies. Do not shit on those Ewok movies.
they were around about that same time though. So, like, and the Ewok cartoon and the Droids
Yeah.
cartoon, even like anything that was done around that time was good. But there was this bit of me that just kind of went, well, why don't they ever get some of these like novel writers and the comic book writers who seem to understand this universe in? But that's, I guess, a discussion for later. But yeah, my God, like almost from page one, I go, oh my God, it's Star Wars. And that roller coaster just keeps on going for me throughout not only this trade, but the Vader trade we read, and the second part of the story, the Smuggler's Run part. But it rekindled. I would say it rekindled my love. It reminded me why I loved it. Also gave me a few pangs of why can't anyone else who's paid a lot more money do stuff as good as this?
Yeah, the first thing I will say, as soon as I opened it up and they were like, yeah, so the Death Star's just been blown up. Right, I know exactly where we are. I know exactly what's just happened.
Yeah, yeah,
And I know where we're going. And I was like, perfect. Now, does it fit in what should be happening between point A and point B? Because, we know what start point is. We know what point A is. Point A is the Death Star's just been blown up at the end of New Hope.
yep,
B will be the beginning of Empire,
yep,
and then being on Hoth.
yeah.
Tell me how we get from point A to point B.
Well, and I guess like if there's anywhere like so this plays in that era I love as well. Like as much as I berate the prequels, and I'm not saying that like this acknowledges the prequels. It doesn't just go no, all those shit movies don't exist. You know, it does blend
Yeah,
into the whole universe, but and the whole sort of canonical history, as we say. But this is playing in my favorite era. But I think that's one of the things, and I guess I'll find out when I carry on. That was one of the fears I had for it of going when you're playing in between movies, you could easily really mess this up by doing stuff in between that I don't feel happened in between. And a lot of my complaints with the prequels, there's loads of stuff to kind of link it to um, A New Hope and onwards that A New Hope and onwards kind of indicated didn't happen, but I
yeah.
felt like linkage. So that was a fear for me going in. But I'm pleased to say so far, other than a couple of minor little bits which we'll get to, but I feel like everything makes sense. I feel like this is believable as to what might have happened between A New Hope and Empire.
Yeah. Um, this was just great because you've got Luke wants to know more about being a Jedi. He wants to go and learn the Force,
Yeah.
which makes sense because where do we see him in Empire? He goes off to Dagobah and goes sees Yoda. So of course he's going to start playing around with trying to learn more about the Force. Goes off to back to Mos Eisley and goes to find Obi-Wan's recluse
And
hut.
and does like a lot around that, doesn't it? It doesn't. He doesn't kind of. We know in Empire and beyond, like the loss he's feeling in losing Obi-Wan, even though you can argue they only knew each other for a little bit of time, but that is quite a focus for the story of Luke, isn't it? It's not only the quest to get a Jedi, but it's that, I guess to a degree, a quest for revenge against Vader because he
Yeah,
cold-blooded killed Obi-Wan, a dude he liked, right in front of his face.
which they do, showing a glorious thing of the being hacked down, and you see Luke seeing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then you've then also got the secondary story of Leia and Han going off, basically trying to help get supplies and a new base for
Well, it's
the
kind of
rebellion.
it's kind of like Leah is as ever very kind of dogmatically trying to push forward the rebellion because that's what she believes in and that's what it should be. And like with Han, it's kind of that combination. It's stuff that, as you say, we see going into Empire of the like just one more mission with you guys and then I'll go because I need to go and sort
Yeah,
out my own shit. But really, I'm probably just sticking around because I quite fancy this lass, and I'm probably not going to go until I get what I want to get out of that relationship. Yeah, I mean, like those guys. I mean, considering like that they are our three heroes. The characterization in this is so spot on, and I will say, as much as I'm waxing lyrical about how great this is, there is a part of me that says it bloody well should be though, because they do have source material to work from. Like they should be able to do this because the map is there for them, but it is done really well, regardless of the map being there for them.
the thing is, when you read Han and Leia, it reads as though, yeah, this is what they would have been saying.
Yeah,
It follows their beats and their cadences.
yeah. You could almost hear Harrison and Carrie Fisher saying those lines,
Yeah,
can't you? And I know people often criticize like Star Wars for having clunkily written dialogue, but they delivered it so well, and that is here, isn't it? I can hear them saying those lines to each other.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like it would have been so easy for someone to come in and change how they spoke or wanted to tell a story but didn't know how to word it in the way that these characters are.
Yeah,
You know, there's certain things you expect from these characters, and they managed to pull it off.
but it's one of the uniquely fantastic things about the original trilogy. There are 3 movies I love. I'm never going to lie about that. But one of the things that I love most about it is that I think it's very rare in cinema history for you to get multiple characters have such a believable relationship so quickly.
Yeah,
And as you say, so much of that was in the cadence of the way they spoke to each other and things like that. And yeah, it comes through on the written page beautifully here. And of course, we say those. I mean, this has Chewie in it. This has 3PO in it. This has R2 in it. And all of those are treated equally as well as I feel in context. But I think your draw is certainly at this point those 3, and of course on the dark side a little bit of draw towards Vader. But yeah, it's great for pulling me back into that universe. And you know what? Like, I think if I never watched a Star Wars before and read this, I think I still would really like it. It would make me want to go and watch the Star Wars movies. I think it's a really good advert from that regard.
yeah. I do really like the fact that they are using characters that would be there or thereabouts, but obviously we wouldn't have seen yet. So you get Boba Fett comes in quite early because he's off on a bounty hunt for Vader.
Yeah.
I know technically we do get him because of the reissue, but you know, Jabba the Hutt's there.
Yeah.
Being Jabba and in his palace with all his little flankies that you don't see until much later.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that is you say that
there.
You say that. I mean, that's one of the things that so I don't think I'm going to be particularly negative on this at all. I think I'm going to be positive all the way. So I figured let's get my couple of little negatives out the way now. Like, I did slightly dislike. So you say Vader is on a Boba Fett is on a mission for Vader, and that mission is to track down the boy, as he's referred to a lot in this, the boy that blew up the Death Star. And of course, that being Luke, and it does lead to a small but I guess significant confrontation between Boba and Luke. That is probably the only complaint I've got from these 3 trades, because I did think that was a little bit too fan servicey. And I'm doing that now because I am going to talk very positively about fan service going forward, because I think that's another thing this gets really right. But that was the one time where I went, oh, do you know what? That feels a little bit too close, and potentially made Boba look weak. Now, bearing in mind, since I read this the first time, we've been through the book of Boba Fett, where I had no idea how weak Boba could be made to look. But it did feel a little bit like, I guess using wrestling terms, like they kind of jobbed him out a bit too easily here. I know he didn't like pay for it, but it felt like that was the only time where maybe it didn't service the further story more. And that's probably my only complaint about the whole kit and caboodle, if I'm honest, from what we've read, and which pretty fucking good if that's the only thing I've got to whinge about.
Yeah. There's the intrigue, Han's wife.
Yes.
Sana Solo. Which, when that bit comes out, you're just like, well, of course he's gonna have got himself fucking hooked up.
Let me get you some of this Corellian wine, Leia, that I just have in this cave that I've taken you to get us away from the Empire. And then, of course, as you say, you meet Sana, and then she actually sort of says, "Oh yeah, like I knew he'd bring you here." And then she sniffs and she goes, "Oh, Corellian wine on your breath," and you just go, "Oh, Han, you old dog, you."
It fits so perfectly, that he'd do that, and obviously we get a lot more of that in book 2. This is near the end of book 1. We are sort of jumping all over the place. This is not a complete breakdown.
Oh no! I mean, I felt for this like I think it's more of a let's talk about kind of how we felt about it. I think we'll probably something we'll revisit at some point. But yeah, this doesn't kind of feel like breakdowns, and also like I don't even feel like this story kind of needs a breakdown, does it? They do Star Wars stuff. I mean, that's the honest truth of it. They kind of they job about from world to world, doing bad things to the Empire, but ultimately getting caught up in something that's a bit outside of their control. But they find a way because that's what they do, and it feels like you're watching what if Lucas at that time had made a movie between A New Hope and Empire, you feel like that's probably what this would have been. So yeah, I think storyline wise, not to be too reductive to it, but I think it would be almost be doing it a disservice to kind of break it down too much. I think so much of it is about like the feelings you get from it. You know, when you said Sana, again, one of the triumphs for this for me is this manages to introduce a load of new characters to the Star Wars pantheon that I want more of. Now, bearing in mind, I have had 3 prequels, 3 sequels, and a handful of
TV and standalone movies.
Yep, and not a single one of them has introduced a character that I'm remotely as interested in as either Sana, BT, 000. I still don't know how to say the Wookiee bound. No, the Wookiee bounty hunter, Black Kirsten. Yeah, and for me, the absolute star of the show is Dr. Aphra, and that in what ultimately is 15 issues that I think we read, or was it 18? I can't remember how many it was. To introduce 5 new characters, I am fully invested in. That's one hell of a turnaround.
Yeah. Obviously, we'll go more about how he looks in his own book, but Vader is drawn in this like a fucking samurai. This is
like
very
a boss
much
samurai as well, isn't it?
Yeah, this is very much because obviously Lucas has said that a lot of his ideas for the original sword fights with the lightsabers was from Japanese movies. The way that they draw Vader in this is evil samurai gonna fucking come in and fuck shit up.
And they're not going to draw him like that. Well, as I say, he feels like a ominous figure, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He feels like we saw it in the original movies, like where he kind of walks into a room. They do that really well on the page here, don't they? And sometimes it's just that he's stood there and you kind of see people sort of scattered around him. But when he's in a panel, he's center stage and you feel like, oh, I wouldn't want to mess with him. And you tend to see the people around him being, I don't know, portrayed as lesser than him because he is the boss. Certainly in the first Star Wars trade, I would say anyway.
Yeah, and this is very, very much worth your time. If you have any inkling of interest in Star Wars, jump in on the first one. It is free if you have Amazon Prime. And I think I looked at it to buy. You can pick it up if you want a paper version for like 6-7 quid.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those ones that because it's a first volume, I think quite often you can even see it for less than that. Like it'll be knocked down to sort of like 5 or even 4 quid sometimes, just to that we talked about before, that drug addict version of have this one, try this morsel of drugs for free. The before we move on from volume 1, the art in this is phenomenal. John Cassidy on art, and as I say, I come into it knowing he's an artist I like, but every page is gorgeous and they look like they're supposed to. And I'm not saying like everyone is photorealistic, but he just gets to look so hands down from. And I know you said about Vader, but even when they're doing things like you have like AT-ATs in it, and I want these AT-ATs. Like, I thought I loved the ones in the movies, but I want the ones that are drawn on this page.
Yeah, the TIE fighters, the Y bombers.
Yeah,
everything looks perfect, and as you remember it from the films, his droids, more so when we go into the Vader one, but with 000, but the way the droids are drawn, the use of color to
Yeah.
give them the light and life in the eyes and things is just fucking stunning.
Yeah.
And lightsabers.
Yes.
You would
Yeah.
think lightsaber, it's a piece of piss to draw, but to make them have the reflection and look like they are actually glowing on the page, not just a red line on the page.
Well, and the fights they have with them, you know,
Yeah,
again, they look stunning. That you feel like you're watching a fight, even though it's a panel by panel representation. But again, primarily with the way that they are doing it are the lightsabers.
yeah, fucking stunning. Get on it. And then once you've read that one, get on this Invader. So a trope that we see occasionally that DC do with Batman stuff, where you get Batman's telling of the story, usually Joker's version, because it's usually a Joker story where they'll do it, and you get it's the same thing that's happening, but you get the other side.
Yeah,
And
it's a true companion piece to it, isn't it?
yeah,
Like, I think probably to a degree, you could just read Star Wars, but you would only get one half of the story. But when I say one half of the story, I don't mean you get the beginning and Vader gives you the end. You get the story from a certain perspective in Star Wars, don't you? And then you
yeah,
get what is happening as well at the same time with Vader and let's say more the dark side perspective in it. And
yeah,
like different writer. This one is Kieran Gillen, and I guess like you know writing partnerships all the time, and they probably work very closely together. But I think it's quite amazing that they managed to dovetail these two stories so well, with it being two different human beings writing it.
yeah. And so there's maybe 3 or 4 points where you get definitive. These are the touch points where they're both the
Yeah,
same things are happening.
bloody love those bits as well. I thought they did them
But
so well.
but they fill out what Vader's getting up to, and
Yeah,
it all makes sense. And you I don't know if you're meant to, because Vader's big and evil and terrible, but you're rooting for him because you know he's doing it against the Emperor. Because he's
but when
like
that's
it's
really
got a bit of a thing where you're starting to get a little bit of tension between him and the Emperor, because he wants to go and find out who this kid is, but he wants to do it his way, where the Emperor's telling him, no, no, you won't. You'll do it the way that I want you to do. You'll do as you're told.
well, it's really tricky as well, isn't it? Because I know I've moaned specifically on previous episodes before when you get things like, oh, let's do a comic book about the villain. And then you find out within one issue, this mass murdering bastard is suddenly ho ho ho, jolly jolly jolly, fun fun fun.
Yeah,
But I think you're right. They don't do this here, but they flesh him out. And I think you are right. I think he's much more sympathetic than a lot of the people that he's being presented next to in this. But
but
they
he's
do
still a
enough to
bastard.
remind, yeah, they do enough to remind you that he's still the villain. He's just a little bit less of a villain than some of the people around him. And yeah, one of my, and I'm going to say one of my favorite, but Vader, I think, strange enough, I think this volume of Vader, if I had to put it side by side in a battle against Volume 1 of Star Wars, I actually would lean towards Vader. And I think where I lean towards Vader is I think they did. I think because I've seen really bad Vader since, like when we
Yeah,
go back to the prequels, a lot was done to destroy Vader and the mystique of him. Whereas in this, certainly even straight away, you get to see the repercussions of what happened at the beginning of the Star Wars story, which was the rebels were attacking the moon, and ultimately they kind of win the rebels. But you get to see Darth having to report that back to the Emperor, and he doesn't just berate him for failure here, but he leans into the Death Star and all the things that happen like that. And you actually it's quite funny, isn't it? Because I was thinking about this earlier, almost like being in the workplace of he almost gets demoted, doesn't he? It's almost like, well, you're not the
You're on a
supervisor
performance
anymore.
review.
But yeah, someone else is the supervisor now, and things like that. And I don't know, you get that combination of, I guess, seeing a bit of Frailty in Vader, where he's clearly hurt to a degree by that rejection, but also really angry because he's like,
Yeah.
piss off. Like I am the heir to this throne, so to speak, and now you're putting like idiots, like people that he knows that from the generic empire in charge of me as being my watchdog. But all the while, again, what's so smart for me around this is we've heard the emperor, we've seen the emperor, and you know that he's just a bit of a bastard, isn't he? And he knows that this is just going to like annoy
Piss
Vader.
off
And
Vader.
yeah, you know, and you can see why he's doing it. I don't. It's just so smart. It's just so smartly done in this context. Okay, you can argue they're simplistic character motivations, but I just think they're delivered so well. And that's like really early on in issue 1 of Vader, and you go, okay, I can see how this is a series because you have mapped out really early here why I'm going to stay along with this Vader story, because I can see that there is real tension here. Like almost Vader has no friends here, and he probably shouldn't because he's a murdering bastard. But you know, it's not like he's suddenly going to become mates with Chewbacca in the next issue, and he ain't becoming mates with the Emperor again. But yeah, beautiful way to set up that kind of tension and where the universe is. And as you say, then it allows us to go off and follow what Vader does with this. Really interesting stuff.
As we said, Dr. Alpha, BT, and 000. It's like he's got his own version of what Luke has with his little posse. And I'm just like, I want these characters. I want to see so much more of these three. Because obviously you got BT, who is a murderous little death
tooled up as well, isn't he?
Tooled up
like
version of
missiles
RT.
and guns coming out of every orifice. That little robot.
And then you got 000, who's C-3PO,
but not a twat.
Evil. But evil and will quite happily murder people to torture them to get information.
And in fact, not only will, but wants to, doesn't he? Like there's a, and you're right about like the comparison to C-3PO, because you can almost hear his voice being so as charming, if you find C-3PO's voice charming, but the words that are coming out of his mouth are all vile and evil, aren't they? They're all around, I'm going to torture you, and basically wanting everyone and everything to die.
And then obviously Dr. Alpha, who's just a little bit of a lost kid sort of vibe going on, knows that she isn't ever going to be friends with Vader and will only be alive while she still serves a purpose, but wants to buddy him a little bit. And I really like that sort of uncomfortableness that there is between them two, because you know that Vader is not going to, be like, yes, very well, how's your day been?
Yeah.
Vader is always going to be, no, this is what I want, do it now.
There's kind of like a bit of an Indiana Jones-esque element to her in like that adventure a bit, but she's kind of a super smart with a bit of a sociopathic edge to her, isn't it? Like, it's not that she's totally disconnected, but I think maybe hyper-realism. Like, like she wants to do things that I think she finds exciting, exhilarating, and a lot of that is like going out there and finding these weapons and finding these robots and things like that. But like she's almost giddy, as you say, like a kid when she gets to meet Vader. But as you find out in the story, like she says, I know you're going to kill me. So it's almost like this realization, but the desire to, I don't know, like hang around with Vader is so pulling to her that she almost doesn't care that ultimately she realizes it will lead to a death. That's part of the fun to a degree.
Yeah, and I just love it. So I know you're gonna kill me. Just do it with a lightsaber, please, and make it quick.
Yeah, and yes, there's that whole bit, isn't there? And again, I mean, like, it's bearing in mind this is a Star Wars comic set in space, and like probably most human beings will never have this conversation, but when she has that conversation about yeah, please put a lightsaber in my neck, but if you can't do that, whatever you do, please don't jettison me into space, because I've always like kind of feared that.
Yeah.
And I just think, like what an amazing establishing part. You don't get that very often, where someone talks about how they want to die or how they don't want to die, I guess is closer to the truth.
Yeah, no, it is that just something about her that's great. And I'm like, I hope that they do something with the character.
Well,
I
and there's
don't know
that
how long this run goes for, this Vader run. I don't know if it just
25 issues, I think.
because I didn't know if it went for the whole companion against the whole of the Star Wars run.
So at a certain point, Kieran Gillen, who writes Vader, the Vader series ends, and he goes over to write the Star Wars comic. And then some other things happen. But let's just say that there might not be a Vader comic anymore, but there might be a comic that you quite like that comes out to replace Vader. But like, yeah, I mean, going back to like these new characters, they reminded me of meeting Luke, meeting Leia, meeting Han, and as much as I've panned the movies a little bit earlier, the only other experience I've had in the Star Wars universe was I felt like that when I met Rey and I met Finn. Unfortunately, I know that they lost me not too long after that with those characters, but I think they hit the magic formula again. They somehow they went, here are some characters, and I went, show me more. I need more. I want to see more. Give me more.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do. Like it's not often that on a page, or let's say within 3 pages, I was like, yep. Because a lot of the times new characters get crammed in and they're there and they might be slightly intriguing, but not to this level. And there was one bit I loved with 000, and I've got it here. And he says, "As there's no one here to murder presently, how may I be of assistance?" And that's how you establish a character.
Yeah, it's just fucking So the thing I do really like with both of these is they both end on the same bit where Vader gets told by Bubba or Boba even.
Yeah.
Not Bubba.
Hello, Bubba Fett. That would be good. Bubba Ray Dudley in a Boba Fett uniform.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
That Skywalker is the name of Luke because he doesn't know anything more of him. But
you get that lovely scene, don't you, where you see his anger because you see it in both the Star Wars comic and the Vader, because he's on a Star Destroyer at the time, and the cracks start appearing in the glass, and also I think as much as you get these kind of moments where the same thing, like similar things happen at the end in this, you tend to get a slightly little bit more in one rather than the other. So you get a little bit more out of that scene in Vader than you did in Star Wars. So it doesn't feel like they just went, we can't be bothered to do a couple more pages. Let's just use this bit again. The only other thing I wanted to say
is enough for that sort of thing, though, is because if someone isn't reading Vader, you still need to know these bits.
Yes, yeah.
So it gives you the bits that you need to know in Vader, or that happen in the Vader story arc, because it affects the Star Wars story arc.
Yeah.
But you're fleshing it out in Vader, so those parts are being fleshed out, and you are getting much more of them, which is what you need. It's like it was like I go back to the Joker Batman one in the New 52, the Death of the Family, or is it Death in the Family? Which is the New 52
Death of the Family.
Death of the Family as a Joker version and the standard New 52 one. But it goes much more on what Joker's getting up to when you don't see him. It's the same here. And it said you don't need to read it, but it is a perfect companion to fill out the story better.
Well, there's the bit earlier on in the series. You mentioned it earlier, like the introduction of Jabba, and in the Star Wars comic, you see Jabba having a meeting with Vader, and Vader's been sent as an envoy by the Emperor to sort of discuss things. And there's some wonderful things in there, isn't there? Like, we're pretty much like Darth walking in and going, "Fuck you, we're not here to trade. You're doing what I say," and Jabba doing a bit of the old, yeah, your Jedi stuff doesn't work on me. All things that we know that pay off later on in the movies. But again, something that could have felt like fan service. I think it just made sense and it actually come across really well. But of course, then when you get to reading it in the Vader comic, you see a different conversation that they have
a day earlier,
which fleshes out a lot of the things to come. And I think it's those sort of things where you just go, yeah, this is really, really smart, tied up. Like, you don't feel like you're being cheated. You feel like, as you say, like with the Batman and the Joker, you feel like you really are getting to see it from the other side of the coin, and not sort of going, "Oh, everyone's right, everyone's good." You get to see the shitty things that happen, but Darth could have just been a villain. In this, they could have gone kind of cheap heat way of run just a Star Wars comic, and then Darth would turn up every now and again, and the good guys are battling. Yeah, but here you're getting a full Darth story to go along with it, and who knows where they end up with it. Like, we know what happens by the time you get to Empire. We know what happens by the time you get to Return of the Jedi. But I'm really interested to get him fleshed out more. And you could argue that that's a fearful thing to go into, having seen lesser writers, George Lucas, try to do this in things like the prequel. But even that, like, we get some prequel nods here, don't we? We get to see, oh God, I can't even, like the Geonosia and things like that. So you get to see some of those bits. So, like they're pulling on everything, but it doesn't feel like it's been done cheaply.
Yeah, and there's also the bit near the end where he speaks to, when he finds out Skywalker, because this is where the Vader run runs a little bit extra than the Star Wars one. Yeah. He goes to confront the Emperor.
Yes.
About Padme.
Yeah.
And you get a few flashback scenes of Padme being pregnant and, "I have a son." And,
no. But yeah.
But yeah, it's that, those extra little bits that are throwbacks to even the prequels in the films world, but link everything together in the Star Wars canon and do it so well.
Yeah, they're using it. I mean, like, for me, I think I'd struggle to use it because I dislike it so much. But again, these are talented writers, and they've gone, well, this is part of the story. Let's use it. Let's make it work for us. And I think they do that really well. And as I say, this is the first trade of Star Wars and the first trade of Vader. There are many more stories to come, and fingers crossed, it carries on that quality, and we carry on reading it, and we carry on liking it. And they've given me no reason to think that they won't. So I think, like, they could. I'm not saying they can't pull off a miracle here. They can't make me like the prequels, but they can make me accept the prequels, because I feel like they are trying to maybe grab the best bits or try to weave some bits in that give it more credibility, I think, is probably the term I'd go with.
The thing is, what they use so far from the prequels, though, is just that Vader, who was Anakin, had kids, which that is still lore even in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Because, we find out that Luke and Leia are brother and sister, and that
spoilers,
Vader is Luke's dad. These are things that these are tell us, where the prequels just fleshed it out to go, look, here is Anakin and his wife.
Here is Weenbag and his wife. Here are all loads of characters that implausibly had all met before but had forgotten each other by the time you see those next lot of movies. That sort of thing.
Yes.
Art wise, Vader, different artist. This is Salvador LaRocca, or LaRocca possibly. Yet again, though, smashed it out
Fucking
of the
stuff.
park. Yeah, and I found myself trying to almost pick a favourite between the trades of art. I don't think I could. I think they're both just absolutely fantastic. I feel like they were probably given a big run up to this, though. I imagine they were taken off any other duties for a while because they can't have been knocking this out monthly because this is too good to be monthly. And knowing the artists as I do, they're not the swiftest artists in the world. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, absolutely amazing.
So I will. If we're just doing 1 and 2, or 1 and Vader, I'd give it
Yeah.
to Vader only because of 000. Because
Yeah, I guess
he
that
is
does.
fucking stunning.
And again, like it has that intricacy in the pencil, doesn't it? That some of the other stuff doesn't require so much. Actually, that's probably a good way to do. Put a picture of 000 against a picture of 3PO and go, which one looks better? Although I think my love of 000 as a character, my general not love of C3PO might lean me towards 000 anyway.
But yeah, 000, my boy. I need a murder droid. I don't need one now.
See, that's the thing. You can have like 000 because for me, like Dr. Aphra is the best new character for me, closely followed by 000. But yeah, you can have 000, and I'll go off on some fun adventures with Dr. Aphra.
I just want a murder droid. A
Well,
polite murder droid.
Yeah, that's fine. You can have the polite murder droid. That's fine. But yeah, I'll be, and I say I'll be off having adventures. I'll probably be off having a ciggy while Aphra goes and finds all the cool shit and brings it back so we can profit off of it.
So we will go into the third book of today's discussions, which is the second book in the Star Wars run.
This is also available on Prime for freebies at the moment,
Yes.
isn't it? As well, yeah.
Yes, it is. Opens with an issue about Obi-Wan's diary.
Diary, not diary. Diary. Just for anyone who might have misheard that.
This piece, I don't know if it's just the way that it came across, but this felt filler.
Yes.
Very, very early.
Well, and like when you say it felt filler, I think it is filler. I think you are spot on with that. I think probably it's weird because we haven't read like Vader Volume 2 yet, but I wonder whether Vader has an equivalent filler or whether there's some stuff they wanted to do in Vader that they felt like they had to stretch this story out. But you could argue, isn't it nice for them to be able to flesh out the Star Wars universe a bit and go into some of the stuff that happened not between A New Hope and Empire. So this would have happened between prequels and A New Hope with the Obi-Wan like historical issue. But as I say, more so, I'm with you. I think they went. We need to give the artists a bit of a break to get the run up, and possibly we needed to pace this story out so that our story beats hit across like both the comics running concurrently.
Because there were parts of it that obviously we needed. We needed the fact that, you know, old Ben, weird hermit, looking over the farm and making sure that Luke was fine.
Yeah.
But it could have been 3 pages, not a whole issue. I think the art suffers in this one.
I mean, this one is a new artist again, isn't it? It's Simone Bianchi here, who has got quite a different style. Again, quite a revered artist, not one that's ever really done it for me. But yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like this one feels like the first time the art takes a step down.
And my only thing with this is I don't know whether they were trying to do McGuinness or McGregor as the basis of Obi-Wan.
Some sort of strange morph of both, possibly.
It didn't really look like either. So it didn't really look like what Obi-Wan should look like. which is one of the things with when you've got licensed stuff like this, which is what they do so well in the first trade, and then later on when they're back to
Yeah.
doing Luke, Leia, Chewie, and Han, they look like the actor or a version of the actors, and the characters look right. This just it didn't look right.
It's almost
Don't know
that.
what they were doing with him, and it's then not helped by how weak and, as I say, filler the story beats are. That when you're then looking at it, you're going, it does look a little bit shit, and it's boring.
I mean, it's almost that you say that about that kind of drawing people who we've seen on screen. It's almost a blessing and a curse, isn't it? Because the blessing is that you know what they're supposed to look like, so you know you're not even have to rely on imagination. You could just like draw it. But of course, the curse side to that is because we all know what they look like. If you don't draw them well and spot on, you're going to be really criticised really quickly. But yeah, I think storyline wise, they do flesh out a bit of, I guess, Obi-Wan's sort of guilt of the Jedi. It's very much bad things happened, but like my duty is to look over Luke, and there's some bits and bobs that happen in the story. But yeah, I'm with you. It felt unnecessary. It felt like filler. It potentially felt like a story that they may, and I don't know, they may later regret telling because we're going to get an Obi-Wan TV show soon, and my God, my fear is that it's this issue stretched out over 6 episodes. But almost it could be a fertile playground to go into. But I feel like no, it was just we want to establish that Obi-Wan wrote a diary because Luke is going to go looking for that diary in the next kind of storyline, um, and it would be nice to touch in on a character who is dead in canon at this point. But yeah,
Yeah,
it didn't do much. But didn't worry me too much though. I will say because it felt so fillery. It wasn't like, oh Jesus Christ, this has jumped the shark already. I felt like it was just like in between this, like the next story is 4 issues, but we've got 5 issues for the trade. Let's chuck a filler issue in.
yeah. Um, when we get back to the normal story, we
Regular
see
programming.
regular programming comes back. We do see Luke going off with the diary of Obi-Wan off to find out what's happened to the Jedi, and he needs to
It
go off to
feels very.
Coruscant.
The thing is, it feels very Lukey as well, doesn't it? Because he kind of goes off on this quest, but he doesn't really have an idea of what he's going to do, does he? There's even a part where he's in the X-wing with R2, kind of going, "Well, this book doesn't really tell me a lot. I don't really know what to do now." But
Wing
again,
it.
it felt like what Star Wars and what Luke would do. He
Yeah,
would run head first without fault, and then figure it out later. Yeah, I liked it. I liked the fact that they were keeping this on track. He wasn't all of a sudden, and we'll pick up on this a little bit further as you go into the story. But one of the dangers as well of revisiting these characters at this stage is they're really novice in what they're doing. And one of the really dangerous things you could do is by establishing them as being much more competent than we saw him in the next film. But again, I think they do
yeah,
that really well. Sometimes they get away with it. Sometimes they do some really good things. But generally, you feel like they are vulnerable, even though they make it to Empire.
yeah. You then obviously still have Han and his wife
Yes.
going at it, and that starts getting flashed out a bit. Where you find out that she is a bounty hunter trying to get Leia, and wants Han to basically help him or help her. But he then goes, "Well, I'm now wanted by the Empire too."
Yeah. There's some great kind of caper-esque elements, isn't there? Where
Yeah,
there's like they've each got their gun on each other at a point, and then like no, a gun gets taken, then the Empire come in, and then all guns are trained on Leia, and then you have this realization where Han goes, well, actually, like they're going to get me as well, and then guns get trained elsewhere. It felt like a really good kind of heist caper movie to me. This storyline.
yeah. Han then bears his soul, tells Leia the truth, but she's not there to hear it, so he's, just blabbed it out for nothing. Which, again, perfect for fucking Han.
Yeah.
Because you get those moments where he goes, yeah, actually, I am a dick.
Yeah.
She's not here to hear you, so we'll never say that again.
Yeah.
I do love that Leia basically goes, right, I tell you what, you can have him back as your husband. Just go and do this thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that he becomes a bargaining chip, doesn't he? Yeah. She's like, I need something. I don't really want this guy, but I will trade him back to you if you help me. Yeah, really good stuff. Leia is the strong Leia that we see in New Hope, and certainly even more so in Empire. Han's full scoundrel at this stage, but even then you can see that kind of redemption-y, like you can see that glint in his eye that he's good inside. Yeah, like he kind of, sometimes he fucks up, but generally it's the fuck ups that go on around him that drive him into being in these situations, but really he wants to do good. Really good. And as I say, like I think Sana plays off really well in that storyline, and I'm not sure what happens with her, and I'll be interested to find out. But to be honest, I'd be like reading this. I'd be interested in seeing a solo story with her, and no pun intended with the surname. But yeah, like I'd like to see them spin her off to do something else, which again is really big selling point for me of going in 2 story arcs, or like, well, I guess you could argue 3 story arcs, but you've managed to introduce a load of characters that I want to know more about. I know I said it earlier with Aphra and 000, but I'd love to see an extended storyline with her off doing something in her area of the universe, maybe interacting with some other Star Wars characters or Star Wars universe characters that we know of.
Yeah. Well, in this one, we don't get very much Vader.
Nope.
In this run, which I liked. I liked the fact that, because obviously we know that there's a Vader set of books. If we want to know what Vader's getting up to, that's over there.
And the beautiful thing is when you have this like bereft of Vader storyline, it kind of makes me excited to read the Vader storyline. So I'm going, oh, what's he off doing?
Yeah,
what's he up to? The cheeky little scamp. Yeah.
We then go to what's the smuggler's?
Nar Shaddaa, I presume it's pronounced. Yeah.
Which is basically Mos Eisley on fucking crack level of villainry and scum.
Very Luke as well, isn't it? He's like, I need to get somewhere. I'll go to the world's shittiest, the universe's shittiest place without necessarily considering the consequences of it. I think, like, he even sort of says, well, and he goes, I'm going to go into a bar and ask. And then, like, the next scene you cut to it, and pretty much everyone's got their gun drawn on him, haven't they? And you just go, okay, that is how this would have worked out.
Yeah.
Naive farm boy that he is.
And it's just so well told, and I really liked that it took what we've seen previously in the film with Mos Eisley in the cantina, but so much further, and the whole. How many times have you seen it in other films and other things where random good guy turns up in bar full of bad guys, they all go and try and jump him. And it's fucking exactly what this needed to be.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it.
Plays on story tropes and does them well, doesn't it? Like, there's no shame in using stuff that's been used before, because sometimes storyline stuff just makes sense. You've just got to do it well. And I think, again, that's what they deliver on so well through these 3 trades, is that even when they're leaning into some more basic storytelling tropes, they just tell it in such a compelling way.
They do what they need properly.
Yeah.
The thing I do love in this one is the new Hut, who's...
I'm so glad you said that.
So not like Jabba and everyone else that we've seen previously or after this, where yeah, he's a big giant green fucking lizard, but he's a badass who will fucking fight for himself
Yeah.
and interesting because he wants relics, he wants to collect. He's not
Yes. I
just
mean,
there.
he even when he monologues, he says it, doesn't he? He says like
Yeah,
most of the other huts are out there just for kind of greed, crime, and then to get big by eating and being. But I want to use my fortune because I want to collect. And then again, you know, like we're sitting here as comic collectors reading this, and I think we can feel a lot of affinity with the idea of going, yeah,
but there must
I'd do a bit of, I'd do a bit of crime to make my collection better. Yeah, yeah, I would. Yeah.
But yeah, so he comes in really fucking cool.
And I'm with you. I really liked him as well. And you know, like I said earlier about at certain points, this kind of having a degree of fan service to it. Yeah, you could argue, and again, in a lesser writer's hands, you would feel like they
Just
just went,
another.
yeah, we can't be bothered to think of anything. Just stick a fucking hut in there. But I don't think. I think they wanted to put a hut in there because I think they wanted to show a different dimension of a hut and that they're not all the
Yeah.
same. And yeah, I think it come across really well.
And then obviously you got he sends Luke, knows that he's a Jedi, gets him to open up
The Jedi
what
Holocron.
the Holocron, which if you ever played any of the fucking Star Wars games, is something they push loads in
Yeah.
those. So again, fan service, but to a different level of things.
A
It's
good
not something
fan
that's
service,
ever,
yeah.
it's not something that's ever really mentioned in the films about holocrons and stuff. But it is a big thing in like Knights of the Old Republic, Fallen Order. You know those more role playing Star Wars games. They do flesh them out, and they're a bigger thing in
It's
those.
it's not and I know you're not gonna like where I go next. It's not Mandalorian fan service where they do fuck all for 40 minutes and at the end they go, oh, there's a holocron. It's just part of the story. And it's
Yeah,
good fan service because you just kind of go, oh yeah, there's that thing I've seen before, and it makes sense it being in this story. Not here's something at the end. And that's what I liked about a lot of its fan service. It felt like it served the story and the fans.
we do get a really awesome arena fight,
Yeah,
which
I'm
again,
I'm a sucker for that sort of stuff. The idea of making people fight in arenas.
but again, it's one of those of with comic books, fight scenes like this, which are big set piece fights, can look a bit shit or not flow and not have the excitement because usually there are fuck all words. It
Yeah,
is picture. I mean, there's like 3.5, maybe 4 pages where there's no dialogue. It's just pictures of the fight going on, and it is fucking stunning. You get that giant beast that's in there that's like a fucking rancor on crack.
yeah.
That's just like the mega rancor. It's like, yeah, what the fuck is this? But you know, you don't want to be fighting it.
It's one of them
Um,
ones where I went. I don't know whether this is in a book or anything like that, or whether they just went, let's create a
great.
rancor on crack. But yeah, and do you know what? So one of the things I really liked about it because when you saw that cage, I thought, oh, it's a rancor, and I think they almost make it appear like it's going to be a rancor. So I say about like fan service, that was almost it played on that fan service, didn't it? Because you're going, oh, is it going to be one of them? And when it's something different, you go, oh yeah, something different.
Yeah.
Or I did anyway.
But yeah, you then get much more of a fight because you get the Empire joining in. At this point, Leia and Han have come to rescue Luke, which again, very tropey,
Yeah,
but in a good way because Luke gets himself into stupid fucking positions
but
and needs
also
his
like fast forward X amount of years, and like to Empire and will spoil Empire Strikes Back. Like Luke leaves his Jedi training because he wants to go and rescue Han and Leia, and you know, like that feels like these are the sort of stories that really fleshes that out. It's not just that they're friends, but he knows that they would do the same for him because they have established now that they would do the same for him. They would put themselves in peril to rescue him. You get a bit of I say solo Chewie around here, but not so much solo Chewie, but Chewie. There's a scene where the rebel fleet become aware that Luke has thrown himself into a really stupid situation. It's lovely because you get to see like Mon Mothma and people like that. But they make a decision, and their decision is we can't go and help him. And you know, like it's very fleshed out because they sort of say, look, the rebellion's at a certain position. We are struggling. We're thinned out. We cannot. And they even say, despite how many lives he saved, we cannot sacrifice this rebellion for a singular person. But Chewie goes, which I imagine was, I'll go. But yeah, but you get like a little bit of him going to sort of Nar Shaddaa and doing it, and you get a lovely little fight with him. And I want to say his name's Dengar, if my bounty hunter memory is right. But it was nice because, as I say, I think the first trade lent heavily into those three, and so does this. But it's nice to see that the other characters are going to get some camera time, and you know, very, very good, very, very, very spot on with. I could say this bit isn't fan service. This is bit of, I guess, service purely to fans of Chewie who want to see Chewie get some decent camera time as well.
Yeah, and again, it all fits in with what should happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So, coming out of this one, I very much have now got it on my list of I will carry on with this.
So my spreadsheet.
It's not at the top of the pile because what's at the top of the pile needs reading is sitting under the laptop right now because we need to get that done.
Yeah, I feel like it's something that I'm going to carry on with, and I will probably carry on unless it really dips in quality at some point. But again, from what I've seen, I don't imagine it will. But I think I will carry on, and I think it will be one of those where I will pick it up, I don't know, let's say every couple of weeks and read another chapter. And when I say another chapter, probably like a 5-6 issue part of it, and be really happy to be back in this universe again, this universe that I love. So yeah, I think mine will be paced out over a period of time. I'm not looking to cram everything in one read, but as you say, there are so many other things to read. But yeah, I'm with you. This is definitely staying on the reading pile.
Yeah, it'd be quite interesting to know if there's a run order of where Vader 2 sits in comparison to as you go
there are, and I'll send it to you, and I might even put it in the comments for this video. There are reading lists, like of suggested reading orders for how you should read the issues or how you should read the stories. There are some specific crossovers, much like, I guess, like Marvel stuff. We talked about the event books. There are actual events that happen where the stories intertwine again, but very specifically kind of, here you go. The first one's called Vader Down, and you know there's an event issue at the beginning. Then like part 1 is in Vader, part 2 is in Star Wars. But yeah, there are reading orders outside that as well. So we'll put that kind of in the links for anyone who wants to take up the adventure and do it in a semi-reasonable order, I guess.
Yeah. So because my plan with it is use a trade as a palette cleanse from other things.
Yeah, I think that's my theory as well.
It's outside of superheroes. It's, you know, it's a little palette cleanse from burnout of superheroes, because I did have this thing where I was like, I've not started watching Moon Knight, and I was just like, I was in the middle of watching Peacemaker, so that there, I was like, I'm a bit burnt out with superheroes because reading lots of stuff and all that. And like, I think the Star Wars one every so often, just give you that thing
It's
away
one.
from just being all superheroes all the
It's
time.
one of the reasons why I've made sure to add in kind of as I refer to it on my spreadsheet, indie breaks, because I want a bit of varied storytelling, because it is. And again, one of the reasons why I'm not going to just focus on smashing through this Star Wars, I think with anything, you really do run the risk of burnout. And there are lots of issues. And I don't want to stop enjoying it because I've burnt myself out. I want to stop enjoying it if the storyline,
Falls
or
off
if the
task.
yeah. Um, before we totally leave trade two, the only thing I wanted to say about the issues past the Obi-Wan is yet again another artist shift, and it shifted to Stuart Immonen, who I had. My first experience and my major experience was I had read but saw the art that he'd done for Superman stuff. We've discussed before, Superman, not a character I love, and I just remember kind of going, he's adequate.
Mm.
And then I saw this Star Wars and I went, oh my God, what happened to him between adequate Superman artist to what I got here? And look, I said Cassidy for that first Star Wars trade, like a genius artist for me. And I went, oh God, like we've really taken a downturn quickly until you turn the page and you go, no, this is actually almost going pound for pound with Cassidy in that first trade.
See, if you didn't mention it, I would have thought, other than the Obi-Wan issue, it was the same artist.
And that's
these
and,
5 issues.
and that's so much better then. And no offense to the dude, like I'm sure he's probably not going to come and hunt me down, but it's not my experience of him before. You know, when I said it feels like these artists probably had a big run up to produce some of their best.
Yeah.
This feels like if he'd been given 3 months to do it rather than 1 month, like he probably would in some of his more like traditional like monthly superhero fare. But yeah, like the art again, fantastic, and I hope that continues as well, because we talk about comic books and I am more writer led. Like if the story is good, I will forgive not brilliant art. If the story's shit, I don't really care how nice the art is. It's going to lose me very quickly.
Yeah.
But I've got so spoiled, I think, already on great artists on this. I do wonder whether it will start to affect my enjoyment, because there must come a point where the superstars move on, or they, I don't know. But again, that's something I'll be really interested in. Another one of the reasons why I want to continue with it is I want to see what other artists come on it and whether everyone brings their A game to this.
Yeah. As I said, I definitely will carry on, because obviously I know they're all on Marvel, so I can get them on there. But yeah, I'm definitely in on these. As I said, my palate cleanser of superhero stuff.
Yeah,
and it's in a world that I want to play in, because it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's being done right.
It's so nice to be playing in that world again, isn't it? It feels like, I know I said earlier, like the Timothy Zahn novels, the original trilogy, and playing with the toys as a kid. They're the 3 experiences with Star Wars I had that I can equate to this, and I bloody loved all those experiences, and I bloody love this, and they're good. It's not just that it's comfortable and it's nice. They are written really well. They are drawn amazingly. But yeah, it feels really nice to be playing. It feels nice to be enjoying something from Star Wars again after having so many years of just bitching and moaning about substandard products.
And it being mouse-owned Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, like, I want to give the credit to Marvel. Like, I don't want to give the credit to the mouse. I know it all comes under that banner now, but that mouse is an evil little
Fuck the
shit.
mouse.
Yeah, fuck the mouse. Unless they want to sponsor us, and then yay the mouse.
We love the mouse.
Yeah, we love the mouse. As I said earlier, like I'd sell out pretty easy, like to make my collection better. So yeah, bring it on, evil mouse money.
So, don't know what next week's episode will be.
No, it's a mystery to us. But there will be one. That's the thing that we can tell you isn't a mystery. There will be further episodes.
Episode 31 will be with you soon. But until then, as always, on the YouTube, like, subscribe, ring bells, comments if you've been reading Star Wars, or if you've gone even ahead of what we've covered.
Which I think this was published 7 years ago, so I think probably yes, unless people have just picked it up from Prime Reading. But yeah, you are spot on. Let us know what you thought of. I said Spider-Man. Then what the hell's the matter with me? Let us know what you thought of this Star Wars run. And as you say, Chris, if you've gone on further, please let us know whether we should carry on or where we should stop.
Run off.
Yeah. Before our hopes and dreams are dashed on the rocks.
So yeah, as always, like, subscribe, ring bell, share with friends. Do you have friends who like comic books?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have friends who like Star Wars? Why should they be mutually exclusive? Bring them together.
That's a good point as well, actually. And I know we're doing the outro, but I think that is, like we've talked before about, would you like giving comic books into someone's hand? You kind of have to know the audience. But I think the beautiful thing of this is because it is a big movie franchise. I think you're right. I think you could put this in the hands of a lot of fans of just the movies, and go, give this a go. Now, they might do that thing that people who don't read comics do, where they kind of go, oh, comic. But I honestly think it would grab them. And by the same token, yes, if you've got friends who like Star Wars movies, tell them to watch this podcast, and hopefully we can sell them, and we can get someone else into the web of comic books that we're trying to get out there.
And also follow the channel for more other types of content. We have Show and Tell Tunes, we have Pop Culture Reacts, TW videos.
At some point.
All sorts of wonders. And if you would like to join us, become one of us, then come along. Again, pop your deeds down there, or you can get us on the Twitters. So there's the one that I run for the comic book show, which is Said Legs Comics. Come and say hi. Or you can speak to the man himself over there, who is the main honcho behind the Pop Culture one, which I can't remember what the Twitter name is.
It's Pop Cult Prod, but it is there running on below on the screen. So and I don't know where we'll be by the time this actually airs, but very, very recently, in fact, while we were reading this Star Wars run, I kind of got tied into this thing, comics reading challenge, and a lot of people started at the beginning of the year, and I think a lot of people went, I will read 1 issue a day or 2 issues a day and things like that. Now, bearing in mind, when we're recording this, it is the 26th of April to date us when it releases. But I thought I'd kind of sign up for that, but I thought I'd go for the 365. But you can follow and I know on here, obviously we'll do it on Reading Corner, but you can follow us on Twitter to see what we're effectively reading live. And what I found with it is, because of it, I've had people kind of interact who are also doing the challenge. And do you know what's really interesting? Because you'll see a cover of something, you'll go, oh, I've forgotten that existed, or I don't know what that is. And yeah, hopefully it'll prompt you to be able to get interested in some other stuff.
Yes, so Sed's list is on the Pop Cult one. I'm doing it on the comic book one. You're obviously ahead of me because
not by much though. Not by much. I saw you today. You really did come up the inside track, because I unfortunately had 2 days of not reading.
Damn that work.
Yeah.
So yes, join us, follow us, watch us, share us, like and subscribe. And until next time,
may the Force be with you.
Exactly. Or Revenge of the Sith, if that's your way inclined. Goodbye.